After gaining strong popularity in nightclubs, Mercedes Morr rose to online fame with more than 2.6 million followers on Instagram, and was often seen partying with high-ranking celebrities such as Drake, Travis Scott, and Offset. As her fortune and success flourished, she doubled her modeling empire by joining the world of OnlyFans, rapidly accelerating the demand for her content from her audience. Things were going extremely well for the young model, and she even had plans to expand beyond her modeling by introducing her own clothing line. But tragically, her success would shatter in an instant when an online stalker set out to do the unthinkable, leaving the world reeling with shock and anger, and influencers terrified for their own safety. But what exactly happened to Mercedes Morr? What were the motives behind her stalker's terrible actions? And what can we take away from this tragedy to prevent it from happening again? Welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime, folks. My name is Adrian, and today we're looking at a case so terrifying it'll make you think twice about your social media. When Mercedes Morr rose through the ranks of social media, she never expected to be at the mercy of a deranged killer. And as you can likely guess, this story doesn't end well for her. By the way, Coffeehouse Crime is all about true crime, strange and chilling stories, so if you want to see more darkly fascinating cases, please consider subscribing. And also, we're getting dangerously close to unveiling some very big news on the channel, but I still can't tell you just yet, it's classified. Saying that, if you want to be the first person to hear about this news, please go over to coffeehousecrime.com and sign up. And now, with that said, please grab yourself a coffee, pull up a seat and get ready for the deep dive. This is the case of Mercedes Morr. Welcome to Los Angeles, folks. With a city this famous, there is no need for formal introductions. LA truly is in a league of its own. Hollywood aside, the city is famous for its beautiful coastline and stunning beaches, wide and fascinating diversity, a thriving arts and cultural scene, and amazing restaurants. In addition to its almost 4 million resident population, many famous actors and models choose to call this place home, with thanks to its unrivaled entertainment industry. But unsurprisingly, LA has a dark side too. Homicides in the city happen at an alarming rate, and the LA Times alone has recorded a shocking 598 murders in the last year alone. And mass shootings have happened as recently as just a number of weeks ago. This includes the Beverly Crest shooting, which happened earlier this year, leaving 3 innocent people dead after gunmen shot at 4 other targets in an alleged gang attack. The targets escaped with their lives, leaving this tragedy resting solely on 3 innocent bystanders. The county of Los Angeles sees plenty of disasters too. Dozens of floods, dam breaks, earthquakes, wildfires, and even airline disasters have left literally thousands dead over the decades. Saying that, with a city as popular and busy as this one, fatalities are somewhat unavoidable. Final interesting fact before we get to our story today, but did you know that there is an underground labyrinth of tunnels right under this city? Now, there are some extremely creepy stories about these tunnels. Some say that mafia mobsters used to use these tunnels to store dead bodies, while others say the police used them as a hideout to transport prisoners and large amounts of money. Over the decades, most of these tunnels are now officially closed off, but if you ask me, that makes them all the more intriguing. Anyway, it is here in this bustling city that we find Jenae Gagnier and her family. Born on November the 25th, 1987 to her father Mark and mother Jenae, Jenae grew up in the Los Angeles area alongside her sisters. As for her own mother and father, Mark and Jenae had spent some of their younger adult years in the military, leaving their service to focus on opening their own restaurant shortly after marrying. Moving into her childhood, and even from a young age, Jenae was very feminine, business-focused, and intelligent. It is reported that, at the age of 12, she braided other people's hair in the family garage for money, clearly loving both fashion and money, so to speak. Now, sadly, her parents would divorce when she was just a child, leaving Jenae and her sisters to frequently travel interstate between her separated parents' homes, with one remaining in California while the other moved back to Texas. The breakup understandably caused many issues between the family, and Jenae was known to sometimes act out against her mother and her father. This created problems at high school too, and Jenae often got caught up in drama with the other girls. Though saying that, this wasn't exactly a surprise amongst teenagers. After graduating from high school, Jenae eventually joined college to become a dental assistant. However, shortly after beginning a course, she dropped out to move with her boyfriend to Las Vegas. After arriving in Sin City, she took a job as a professional dancer in a strip club, adopting the name of Mercedes Morr. Mercedes stood for luxury, and more meant that she always wanted more. Now, her parents were understandably concerned by the rather sharp change in her career path, and this became an ongoing difficult conversation in the family. But as time passed by, those conversations, once filled with worry, became ones filled with pleasant surprise instead. You see, Jenae was now making up to $5,000 every single weekend, and it's clear to see that whatever she was doing it very, very well. And with that said, Jenae's parents settled with her new direction in life. Although Jenae was now in the strip club industry, this is not where she wanted to stay. And being the intelligent businesswoman that she was, she began to use the industry and its network as a way to grow her social media. Soon enough, Jenae steadily rose in popularity on Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram, until suddenly, her Instagram in particular began to rocket. And Jenae, now better known as Mercedes, soon found herself hanging out with celebrities like Travis Scott, Offset, and Drake. This would further propel her fame in the industry. Jenae eventually stopped dancing altogether, pivoting over to modeling and partying. And this included modeling on OnlyFans, a subscription-based social media platform where users can sell a variety of content of themselves to others for a monthly fee. And as you may or may not have already guessed, this is often in the form of explicit content. In addition to this, Jenae had grand plans to launch her own products off the success of her various social media platforms, planning to sell her own branded sportswear and hair extensions. As you can tell, she was a very smart and resourceful young woman. Mercedes had risen to the top of her game, with more than 2 million followers on Instagram, which undeniably is an extremely high achievement in the social media sphere. However, with markedly high success comes some rather nasty caveats. Although Jenae found a lot of interest from men, many of those who started dating her wouldn't stick around for long. None of them were comfortable with her work, and often asked her to stop modeling or even quit OnlyFans altogether. Thankfully, she eventually found someone who was happy to commit to her in the long term, regardless of the industry she was in. In fact, by the summer of 2021, she had even begun to make plans to move in with him. By the way, it wasn't usual for Jenae to speak about marriage or children regarding the men she was dating, but her family realized that things seemed to be going in the right direction with this new guy. But tragically, and unrelated to her boyfriend, things changed in an instant. Working as part of the industry she was in, Jenae found herself at the mercy of some very serious security concerns. Being a model brings a lot of attention, and some of it is extremely unfavorable. In fact, Jenae had already been doxxed 4 years prior by a previous fan who leaked her address online. And I'm sure you can think of several nightmare stories that include doxing. With the internet filled with people who don't know how to exercise healthy boundaries, or in fact boundaries at all, Jenae no longer felt comfortable in her own home, and moved shortly after this. And although she didn't care too much about verbal harassment or any of the mean comments online, she was very paranoid about her safety, and was terrified of being stalked. For this reason, she was extremely careful with what she posted online, and even moved to a gated community in Houston named Cortland Sugarland. The Cortland Sugarland Apartments, found southwest of Houston city center, is a gated community with moderate security and a few fast food restaurants. And honestly, it doesn't look too bad. But understandably, this still was not enough for Jenae. Following multiple doxes from previous addresses and countless experiences with stalkers online, Jenae tried to be very careful with what she posted online. Sadly though, she had unknowingly allowed several small details to slip. This including her front door. Now, it's kind of obvious to say this, but fame comes with exposure, and the more eyes on Jenae, the more possibility for encounters, both good and bad. Several things can be done to improve the security of your own home, including gated communities, security alarms and camera systems, or even living in an apartment instead of a house. But sadly, despite actually following most of these protocols, horror would still manage to find Jenae in August of 2021. August the 29th, 2021. Jenae's father, Mark, had just returned from a fishing trip when he received a worrying phone call from one of his other daughters, London. The family had become aware that Jenae hadn't been in contact for several days now, which was odd given that Jenae was very close to her family. Furthermore, she was extremely close with her father and would regularly call him to check in on him. The silence extended past the family too, as nobody else had heard from her in the last 3 days. To add to this, she had also failed to post on her social media, and so, given how wildly out of character this was, something had to be wrong. To make matters even worse, Mark realised that the last time he'd spoken to Jenae was more than 10 days ago on August the 17th. During this phone call, she had asked her father if he could stay with her while her boyfriend was out of town. Now, this was understandable. Considering all of her negative past experiences, Jenae was still inherently scared to live alone. With growing concern, Mark travelled over to her Cortland Sugarland home. With no answer at the door, but her BMW visible from the garage, Mark made the decision to kick the front door down. And sadly, as soon as he did, he was met with a wave of shock and grief. At the bottom of the stairway, he found the lifeless body of his daughter. Her leg was bent behind her body, and her clothes were torn. Blood was found throughout the property in the form of droplets and, in some places, puddles. And exploring other rooms in the home would sadly make the reality even worse. After looking upstairs, Mark found an unrecognizable man clinging to his life on the floor. He had a knife in his chest, which appeared to be self-inflicted. Looking up at the walls, doors, and mirrors added another layer of horror to the already unfolding nightmare. This man, who named himself as Kevin Ocorto, had left dozens of notes written in lipstick or pens. One note read, "I wish I never loved her." Another, "I should have stayed in Florida." Found on another wall, Kevin wrote, "I was used for money." And on the door nearby, "Sorry to the landlord and the community. I hurt a lot, okay?" Another note read, "Jenae led me to think she cared about me, but wore another man's ring." This message indicating another clear and strong motive behind the crime. Shortly after reading the words on the wall, Mark looked down to see Kevin pass away, staying alive just long enough to hear Jenae's father scream, "What did you do?" Responding officers would declare Kevin dead on arrival, making Mark's distraught face the last one he would ever see. Jenae's family were absolutely devastated by the news, and sadly, the internet would rub salt in their wounds when her case became shrouded with misinformation. Rumours spread claiming that Mercedes Morr had died from COVID-19, AIDS, rogue dancers in the industry, and even a violent sugar daddy. Now, I have watched literally dozens of videos posted in the days after Mercedes' death, and honestly folks, the internet was not kind to her. When the authorities publicised the actual news, ridiculous rumours turned into heated discussions over her job, and even blamed her for the industry she was in. And although one of Jenae's sisters has alluded that Kevin had been stalking her for a while, we don't actually know how long for. It's believed that Jenae had no idea who Kevin was, and that the relationship was entirely parasocial. I've talked about parasocial relationships here before, and the dangers they carry with those on the extreme end of the spectrum. For those who don't know, parasocial relationships are essentially one-sided relationships. A relationship where one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time to the other, who is simultaneously completely unaware of their existence. And these types of relationships are most common with celebrities, organizations, or TV stars. You could say that all of you have a parasocial relationship with Nero.
Incredibly tragic story here. We have learned new information that the 33-year-old social media model was strangled to death. That's according to the Fort Bend County Medical Examiner's Office, and police are also now trying to figure out a timeline of when this all may have happened, and also shared with us that they have not seen any signs of forced entry to the apartment. The details still murky as to what led up to the horrific murder of 33-year-old Jenae Gagnier, known as Miss Mercedes Morr on social media, with a following of 2.6 million.
We want to find out why her, why him.
The body of the woman was discovered Sunday afternoon inside her apartment at the Cortland Sugarland complex. According to the medical examiner, she died of strangulation and traumatic concussion in what police are investigating as a murder-suicide. A second body also found. Richmond police say it belongs to this man, 34-year-old Kevin Ocorto, who died by suicide caused by multiple sharp force trauma.
We found her in her apartment doing a welfare check. People haven't heard from her in a couple days.
It was the woman's family that called police asking for a welfare check on Sunday. Gagnier's father was with officers when they made the gruesome discovery.
People were asking about the relationship between her and the suspect, And at this time, we are doing some investigating on social media to determine if there is an exact cause.
And investigators would not share with us whether or not anything was taken from inside of this woman's apartment. And they also tell us that the last known address for the suspect in this case is out of Florida.
Now, not much is known about Kevin, probably because he's a loser that deserves no recognition. But from what we know, he was born in 1987, making him 34 when he murdered Jenae. And although he lived in Florida, he traveled to Texas on the sole mission of tracking her down. Kevin had no substantial criminal record prior to this incident, with traffic violations being the only mark on his otherwise spotless records. An autopsy performed by the Fort Bend County Medical Examiner's Office determined that Jenae's death was a homicide, and that the cause of her death was strangulation and traumatic concussion. After murdering Jenae, Kevin remained in the property for 2 to 3 days, and as soon as he heard the front door being kicked down, he successfully took his life with multiple sharp force traumatic wounds. Detectives working on the scene found that there was no signs of forced entry, meaning it is currently unclear how Kevin made his way into the property. Jenae's apartment was on the 2nd floor and had only one way up, which was via the staircase. This means it is most likely that Kevin would have had to knock at the front door or garage to gain entry. Data forensics would conclude that Jenae did not know who Kevin was, and that there was no reason to believe they had any form of two-way relationship or even friendship prior to the day that she was murdered. This part of the investigation was apparently very extensive, with authorities citing, quote, having to go through hundreds of profiles owned by Jenae. Understandably, Jenae's family, friends, fans, and viewers were devastated by the news. Jenae was usually the life of the party, and with her absence being so abrupt, many didn't know how to handle their grief. Jenae's death stunned those at the top too, with Drake and many others leaving tributes for their much-loved friend. Tory Lanez posted online to say, "Rest in peace, Queen," and Drake would later go on to tribute his entire album, named Certified Lover Boy, to both Jenae and one other victim of violence. The false rumours stirred up other celebrities too, with Cardi B herself lashing out at those spreading hate. And in the midst of all of this were her family, both distraught and angered at Kevin and the wider internet community. With the ongoing investigation, it isn't yet understood how Kevin managed to track Jenae down. But saying that, there are several credible theories. You see, Jenae charged fans for access to premium content on her OnlyFans, and this gave them the opportunity to send her money and gifts in the post. This part is not confirmed, but it is currently believed that, instead of setting up a PO box to redirect the gifts, she instead used a home address. And since Kevin admitted that he had sent her money, this may be how he tracked her down. Saying that though, there are other and more time-consuming ways that Kevin may have found her address. If Jenae never used a PO box to set up her business, then she may have used her own address instead. And sometimes these business addresses slip into the public domain. Frequently attending places and then posting about them online may have been another way for Kevin to eventually track her down. And as mentioned before, details in her photos, such as her front door or the estate swimming pool, could be used to verify her location through Google Maps or Street View. Of course, all of these possibilities are mere theories in Jenae's case and nothing more. Highlighting these issues is intended to make you think twice about what you post online and how others could possibly track you down. Now, although I would normally talk about the legal consequences of this case, there sadly aren't any for this video. Kevin Accorto clearly was a coward, and with him now dead, he has taken all legal justice with him to the grave. With this happening in the state of Texas, he would have likely faced life imprisonment. And although we will never know what he was thinking or feeling in his final moments before he died, we can only hope it was extreme regret and pain while he looked up at Jenae's distraught father. Enough about Kevin though. The real victim of this tragedy here is, of course, Jenae. Jenae was at the very beginning of an explosive career, and whether you agree with her role in the OnlyFans industry as a whole or not, it is undeniable that she was incredibly smart in how she conducted and grew her multiple businesses. As an entertainer and a model, Jenae faced the difficult task of being warm and inviting to fans, while simultaneously positioning herself at a safe distance away from them. This duty in its own right can have an extremely delicate balance, one that changes daily and is a nightmare for many influencers across the globe. Jenae's sister now lives in fear and tries to avoid large crowds. Her father still feels the pain of not being there for his daughter. The two always had a strong bond. so much so that they only lived 1 mile apart. Jenae was described as so loving and had such a kind spirit. And although she was Mercedes Morr to so many, she was Jenae Gagnier to her family and loved ones, all of which who miss her dearly. To quote her mother, Jenae, the family struggled with tremendous loss. She was so famous in her world, and so loved in ours. Her family remember her as kind, protective, funny, goofy, and always a good time to be around.
This shocking murder is still very much a mystery to so many of the people who showed up to the vigil tonight. The social media influencer known online as Miss Mercedes Morr had millions of followers.
Ever and ever.
Tonight, family members and friends shared their tears and their memories of a life that was taken far too soon. From West Houston, I'm Matt Doherty, KHOU 11 News.
Jenae's father recalled how he used to warn her, "Jenae, you have all of these followers. Some probably because they love you, some because they like your look, some more crazy, and some obsessed." And in the end, those worries would sadly become a terribly dark reality. Jenae's case is enough to leave anyone feeling uncomfortable about their safety online. And no, I'm not about to jump out into a sponsorship, that wouldn't be appropriate. But this case does beg one genuine question. Are you doing enough to ensure your privacy? Now, there are several things you can do to help keep yourself safe, and I would like for you to think about them. Posting pictures of yourself in a public place after you've left the area is a good start. But if it is somewhere that you frequently visit, then consider never posting pictures there at all. Saying that, if you would like to be close and personal with your friends online, then consider posting them on a locked account. Somewhere where it's not possible for strangers to pry. Be vague with where you live. Never be more specific than a large city or county. Never post outside directly next to or even near your home. And avoid connecting your location with objects that can lead back to you. This including things such as a license plate of a car, a uniquely named shop, or even your workplace. Now, I won't hammer on much longer, but the point I'm trying to make here to you is to be careful with what you post online. Honestly, you have to protect yourself, it really is important. Jenae tried her absolute best to keep herself both safe and secure, but sadly, in a world so hyper-connected, that sense of privacy seems to be forever dwindling. Anyway folks, I think that pretty much covers our story today. Thank you so much for being here and for watching another video by Coffeehouse Crime. If you found this case interesting or insightful, or you learned something new today, then please consider liking the video and also subscribing. And a quick reminder that we have something very exciting coming very soon to the channel, so please keep watching. Anyway folks, I think that pretty much covers it. If you want to follow me on social media, then please follow the links here. And if you want to follow me on Patreon, then please visit this link here. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you again very soon for another video folks, probably in 2 or 3 days. Until that moment arrives though, remember to look after yourself, look after each other, and of course, stay safe. Thank you, and goodbye.